Welcome to our friends and members who are here with us in the sanctuary, and welcome to our friends who are comfortably at home viewing our broadcast. I'm Lynn Weinstein, co-president of our congregation, along with Betty Adams, and we are delighted to see you on this rainy Friday night in South Florida, and our second Shabbat of our new year. Our services this evening will be led by our Rabbi Aviva Bass, accompanied by Dr. David McFarlane, supported by one of our teen techs, Hayden, behind the screen, and also by Eric Adams, one of our vice presidents here at the congregation. I'd like to ask the folks here in the sanctuary to please make sure your cell phones are silenced. And we look forward to a joyful service this evening. Rabbi?
Thank you so much. Actually, are you coming back for the candles? Oh, it's Betty. Okay, Betty Adams. I'm going to call her up to light our candles to start us off this evening. And the candle lighting is on page 120 and 121. This is Betty Adams, one of our two co-presidents.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lahad l'kner shel Shabbat.
Amen. And now I will do the Kiddush. Let's turn to page 122. Vayhi erev vayivoker yom hashishi vayachulu hashamayim v'haaretz v'chol tzivam vayachal Elohim bayom hashvi malachto asher asa vayishbot bayom hashvi mikom malachto asher asa Vayvarech Elohim et yom hashvi vaykadesh oto ki vo shavat mikom malachto ki vo shavat mikom malachto asher bara Elohim la'asot Savri l'chaim, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Borei peri hagafen. Amen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho, Be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron le'maaseh v'reishit, ki hu yom techila le'mikrah kodesh, zecher letziat mitzrayim, ki vanu v'acharta, Ve'otanu kidasha mikol hamim v'shabbat kodecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. Amen. L'chaim. Okay. Ma yafeh hayom, how wonderful this Shabbat is. Let's sing about it, shall we? Page 128, Ma yafeh hayom. Ma yafeh hayom take a moment to wish one another a Shabbat Shalom before we welcome all the angels of Shabbat. There are very few of us here present in the sanctuary, and we welcome those who are watching from their living rooms or wherever they're comfortable. And you're part of our congregation too. We say hello. And now let's welcome all of our angels of Shabbat on page 142 with the Shalom Aleichem. Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaSharif, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Malachem Shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Baruchuni l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Seitachem l'shalom, Malachei HaShalom, Malachei Elyon, Mimelech Malchei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Now that we have welcomed all the angels, let's welcome the Shabbat Bride or Queen into our midst on page 138 and 139. And of course, we will sing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Okay, Lecha Dodi, page 138. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'dibur echad, Hishmi'anu el Hamiuchad, Adonai echad, Shemo echad, Shemo tiferet v'litila. Lecha Dodi Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki makor habracha, Merosh mikedem nisucha, Sof maaseh b'machshavat chila. Lecha Dodi Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Hitorari, Kiva orech umiuri, Uri, Shir daberi, Kevod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha Dodi Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Lecha Dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nekabela. Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, Gam b'simcha u'b'tzola, Toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, Lecha Dodi Dodi, Lecha Dodi likrat Page 146, we continue with a Baruchu. Please take a seat. We continue now on page 149 at the top. Please join me in reading the English. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Your wisdom sets the way on which time and season glide. Your breath guides the sail of the stars. Creator of the tide of time and light, you guide the current of day into night. As heaven spans to infinity, you set its course for eternity. Praise to you, Adonai, our God, from whom the evening flows. Baruch atah Adonai, hama'ariv aravim. We now turn to page 150 for Ahavat Olam. Please join me in singing. Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amcha Avta Torah u'mitzvot Chukim u'mishpatim Otanu limadeta Al kein Adonai Eloheinu b'shachbenu v'kumenu nasiach b'chukecha v'nisbach b'divrei Toratecha u'v'mitzvotecha le'olam va'ed ki hem chayenu ve'orech yaminu uvahem nege yomam v'layla b'avatecha tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai ohev amo Yisrael. We rise for the Shema, page 152. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, take a seat. We turn to page 155. Please join me in reading the English. Love your God with every heartbeat, with every breath, with every conscious act. Keep in mind the words I command you today. Teach them to your children. Talk about them at work. Whether you are tired or you are rested, let them guide the work of your hands. Keep them in the forefront of your vision. Do not leave them at the doorway of your house or outside your gate. They are reminders to do all my mitzvot, so that you can be holy for God. I am Adonai your God. I led you out of Egypt to become your God. I am Adonai your God. Adonai Elohechem Emet. On page 157, at the very bottom of the page, we read together, "Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea, the Michamocha." Page 158. Michamocha ba'elim Adonai, Michamocha nedar b'kodesh, Norah tehilo tosef eleh, Norah tehilo tosef eleh. Malchutecha ra'u v'necha, Pokei hayom lifnei Moshe Miriam, Zelianu ve'amru, Zelianu ve'amru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Yai-dai, yai-dai, dai, 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 yai-dai, dai, 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 yai-dai, dai, 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 yai-dai, dai, 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 yai-dai, dai, dai, yai-dai, dai, dai, dai. V'nemar ki fada Adonai et Yaakov, v'geolo miad hazak mimenu, Baruch ata Adonai, God Yisrael. On page 162, at the top, please join me in singing the rousing melody of Ishamru. I don't have it in me tonight, to spin around and woo, but if you folks at home want to do that, go right ahead. We can't see you anyway. And it's fine if you do too. Okay, 162 at the top. Ishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam berit olam. Ishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam berit olam. Beini uvein b'nei Yisrael, oti le'olam, oti le'olam. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam berit olam. Ki sheshet yamim asa Adonai, et ha-shamayim ve'et ha'aretz. V'shamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et ha-Shabbat le'doratam berit olam. Uvayom hashvi'i Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash, Shabbat vayinafash. Ishamru b'nei Yisrael et ha-Shabbat, la'asot et Shabbat לדורותם ברית עולם. On page 163, the second reading is the kavanah I'd like to take into our tefillah this evening. A thought has blown the marketplace away. There is a song on the wind and joy in the trees. Shabbat arrives in the world, scattering a song in the silence of the night. Eternity utters a day. We will begin the tefillah together, the first 3 brachot, and then we'll go into silence as usual. And please sit down when you are finished, but take your time with the meditation. Page 164, tefillah. Adonai sifatai tiftach ufi yagi tehilatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu v'imotenu, Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzchak, ve'Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, ve'Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, Elyon, Gomel Chasadim Tovim, V'Konei Hakol, V'Zocher Chastei Avot v'Imahot, U'Mevi Geula Livnei V'Nehem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Hozeh U'Moshia U'Magin, Baruch atah Adonai, Magin Avraham, Bezrat Sarah, Atah Gibor le'olam Adonai, Mechaye hakol atarav lehoshia, Morit hatal, Mechalkel chaim mechesed, Mechaye hakol berachamim rabim, Somech noflim verofech olim, Umatir asurim, Umekayem emunato, Lishenei afar, Bichamocha bagevurot, Umido melech, Melech memit umechaye, Umatzmiach Yeshua, V'ne'eman atah la'chayut hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mechaye hakol. Atah kadosh v'shimcha kadosh, u'kdoshim b'cho yom yehallelu Selah. Baruch atah Adonai, ha'el hakadosh. This is the time in our service when we think of those who are in need of healing, healing of body, mind, spirit, or of all three. So we have a list of names, and hopefully those of you who are worshiping from your homes are seeing a list of names in front of you right now. But I ask you, if you are thinking of someone who is in need of healing, to please say their names aloud now. Chaim Hershel ben Avram Yitzchak Verezel. So for all of those whom we have named, as well as all of those good people around the world who are in need of healing, we sing this healing Mishaberach. Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah U'Yivarech v'Yirapeh et ha'cholim Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah U'Yivarech v'Yirapeh et ha'cholim Narefan Allah El Narefan Allah El Narefan Allah El Narefan Allah Mishaberach Avotenu Avraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah U'Yivarech v'Yirapeh et ha'cholim. So I don't know about all of you, but I'm a little sermoned out at the moment. So rather than a sermon, I thought I would share with you a heartwarming story. This was a story that I found when searching for stories about speech. You'll remember that Kol Nidre night I spoke about the power of speech and how we should avoid negative speech. This is a story about just the opposite, about how we should try to cultivate positive speech and the power of positive speech. And I love this story, so I'm just going to share it with you. And this is by Audrey Hunt, who apparently is a professor in a college. She says, "It was in the 1970s that I met a young man with brown wavy hair, sad green eyes, and a mouth that never seemed to smile. His name was Edward, and he stood a little over 6 feet tall. He presented a mood of quiet, shy, and almost pitiful demure. Little did I know that I would come to play a pivotal moment in my student's life. Edward had enrolled in my music theory class at a beautiful California community college located in the small, sleepy town of Moore Park. The first day of class, as students mill around as they decide which seat to take, is always interesting to me. It was hard not to notice the only 6-foot boy, Edward, as he walked into the classroom a few minutes late and positioned himself in the back row. He slumped onto his chair and lowered his head with his arms folded across his chest in a defying manner. This would be his general entrance into class for the remainder of the semester. As weeks progressed and tests were given, Edward did not do well. He managed to turn in homework which was marked way below his ability level with my notes. He never participated in the class discussions or offered to answer any questions. To my knowledge, he had no friends in school. Sometimes during lunch, I would see him sitting on the grass under a tree. munching on a sandwich and staring into space. On occasion, I would allow myself to join him on the grass and see if I could start up a conversation. I had this gnawing feeling that I needed to get to know him better, but at the same time stay professional and not allow myself to get involved. Edward rarely talked to me or to anyone. He would nod his head up and down or side to side for a yes or no. Nevertheless, I continued to take an interest in Edward in hopes that he would open up to me. Edward missed too many classes, and when he did attend, he carried himself like an old man, as though the weight of the world sat on his shoulders. However, one morning, as class was ending and the students filed out, Edward shot me a quick glance, and I swear that I saw the beginnings of a smile appear. The more positive interest I directed to Edward, the better his grades became. The semester was winding down, finals were about to begin, and I worried about Edward's reaction to his final grade. He was the last one to finish his final exam. Finally, Edward finished the exam, and he looked completely worn out and defeated. As he made his way to the exit, I wished him good luck and told him I would be giving out the final grades on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. My thoughts continued to lead me toward Edward and the final exam that he had struggled with. I had trouble sleeping that weekend. Somehow I knew that the grade that I would give him would be a turning point in this young man's life. Grades were based on classroom participation, completed assignments, exams, and attendance. Edward would be no exception. He would be given the grade he deserved. Perhaps he needed to learn the biggest lesson of all, to be responsible for his own actions. I felt good about my decision. I sat in my office looking at the long line of students waiting to meet with me to receive their final grade. I allowed one person at a time to come in, take a seat, close the door, and prepare to be evaluated. After each student left my office, I would take a peek at the line to see where Edward was. After an hour or so, the line became shorter, and still there was no Edward. I began to worry. The last student in line met with me, received their grades, and left. Where is Edward? Should I wait a little longer? Am I fooling myself? He's not coming. I felt disappointed, but decided to lock up my office and go home. I had done all I could. I looked down at the exam with his name printed on it and saw an imaginary D as his final grade. I got up from my chair, gathered my things, and closed the office door behind me. As I reached for my keys to lock up my office, I heard footsteps. I held my breath as I turned to see Edward standing behind me. He apologized for being late and asked if I would please give him his final grade. I hesitated for a few seconds, then cautiously opened the door and asked him to have a seat. He looked just terrible. His eyes were sunk with dark black circles under them, and the hollows of his cheeks were drawn. His swollen lips were cracked with dried blood in the creases. His skin was pale and his hair matted. He was wearing the same clothes he had worn for the last few weeks. "Would you like some water?" I asked him. He replied, "No, thank you," as he sat trembling. Then he spoke to me in a low, quavering voice. "I know that I'm getting a low grade on my final. I realize that I haven't been participating in class and that I'm an embarrassment to others. I'm lazy, selfish, stupid, and an ugly, good-for-nothing person. I have no place on this earth. And what's more, no one can ever like a person like me. I'm a hopeless case with absolutely no future." I could not believe my ears. I wanted to interrupt him, to convince him that he was none of those things. Instead, I let him talk. I listened with my heart and not my head. I fought back my own tears to manifest my strength and professionalism. When he had finished, I faced him, looked directly into his very sad eyes, and said, "Edward, your final grade is an A. His reaction was one of total and complete surprise. You're giving me an A? Why would you give me an A when I did such a poor job in class on my assignments and on the final exam? Why would you do that? My answer to Edward was this: you may appear to be a D student, but you are an A person. I believe in you now, and I will always believe in you. I am here for you now, and I will always be here for you. Never, ever forget that. Now go and create the life you dream of. Believe in yourself. I will be watching. And by the way, Edward, I love you. In all my years of teaching, I have never graded a student this way. Later that evening, as I prepared to go to sleep, I began to question what I had done. Did I make a terrible mistake? Had Edward filled the room with lies just to win me over and get a high grade? Had I been had? Was my level of compassion playing tricks on me? Finally, my exhausted mind and body gave way to a deep sleep. At 3 a.m., the phone rang. In a fog, I tried to sound alert as I answered the phone. Hello? The voice on the phone asked me if I were Edward's music theory and piano teacher at Moore Park College. I told him yes and waited. I am a priest from Edward's church, and I have something to tell you. I want to thank you on behalf of Edward's family and myself for saving his life today. The priest went on to explain to me the events leading up to this phone call. Edward has an older brother who has always been angry because he is short in height, although scholastically a high achiever and excels in sports. This brother has always been extremely jealous of the 6-foot frame of Edward and has belittled and verbally abused Edward most of his life. I learned that the day that Edward came to meet with me regarding his final grade, he had left a note on his pillow. It read, I am sorry that I could not be the kind of son and brother you all wanted me to be. All I ever wanted was to be loved. I am sorry for being unlovable. I will go now. You will find me in the closet. I am sorry for any inconvenience I have caused you. Please have my body cremated. My small savings is in the top right-hand drawer of the dresser. Edward wrote that note prior to meeting with me. His plan was to see me one last time before taking his own life. When I gave him an A, it represented to him that I believed in him and that I loved him and would be here for him. At that very moment, something changed within himself. He had never heard those words before, and it gave him a glimmer of hope. This is all he needed. He left my office feeling positive and uplifted for the first time in his life. He felt so good, he decided to take a long walk in the surrounding hills around the music department and relive the confirmation he had just heard. He was loved. Yes, someone in his useless life loved him and believed in him. He forgot all about his plan to do away with himself. Meanwhile, his family found the note, went to the closet in Edward's room where they found a rope hanging from the rafters. His closet was carefully prepared as the last thing he would see before dying. A large photograph of his brother was mounted on the wall in view from where the rope was hanging. My father taught me that kindness is a gift everyone can afford to give. We can all be teachers of love, respect, and kindness. Such opportunities pass many people's way if they can just see them. The late Audrey Hepburn said it best, people, even more than things, have to be restored, renewed, revived, reclaimed, and redeemed. Never throw out anyone. So I thought that that was a beautiful story about the power of positive words. I do want to add my own little PS that while the positive is definitely true, that saying something positive to someone can really lift their day and lift their lives. And this was an extreme example of that. I do want to say, because I do know some people who have had family members who died by suicide, that sometimes that doesn't work. That for all you saying, I love you, I love you, I love you, trying to give as much as you can, sometimes people are just so depressed in their own world that no matter what you do, they end up taking their lives. So I don't want it to sound as though, God forbid, anyone should be blamed if there is a suicide. I just want us to be empowered and feel positively about the positive effects we can have on the people around us by saying good things. So Shabbat Shalom. Okay, and with that in mind, we will go on to the Aleinu, page 586. Aleinu l'shabeach l'adon hakol, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Please take a seat as we have some brief announcement before the conclusion of our worship this evening.
Thank you, Rabbi, and thank you, Dr. David, for the music this evening. I'd like to share some information with you about what's ahead. Yes, Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are behind us, but Sukkot is around the corner. And as I briefly mentioned yesterday, I learned that the lulav and etrog have arrived here at Temple Sinai, and we'll be putting the branches together over the weekend, and there will be a sukkah built in the front of our building in the grassy area. Several volunteers have agreed to join together on Sunday for a sukkah building get-together, and we're looking forward to that. Services will be on Tuesday morning here in the sanctuary at 10:30 in the morning. This evening, we would like to show gratitude to the following sponsors for our Shabbat service. Ruth Seidel and Sam Weinman, in memory of Sam's beloved mother, Lillian Weinman. Susan Postal Sweet and Jay Sweet, in memory of Martin Sweet, Jay's beloved father. Harvey Fields, in memory of his beloved wife, Linda. David Rockhour, in memory of his wife, Claire Rockhour. And something a little different, the Adams family wishing Betty Adams a very happy birthday this past week. The following donations were made in support of the food pantries here in our community. And I want to share with you that earlier today, the Rails Family Service in Jacobson Food Pantry stopped by and picked up all the wonderful non-perishable foods that our members and guests brought into the temple over the last week. But also want to remind you that we are always collecting food for the Jacobson Food Pantry. The following people have made financial donations: Marcia Weber, in memory of Molly Geschwind; the Salkoff family, in memory of Marilyn Miller; Lori and Steve Tamber, in loving memory of Lori's father, Max K. Nelson; Ruth Seidel and Sam Weinman, in honor of Susan Postal Sweet's full and speedy recovery. Saturday morning, Shabbat Torah study is sponsored by David Rockauer, in memory of Claire Rockauer; Lori and Steve Tamber, in loving memory of Lori's father, again, Max Nelson; the Adams family, wishing Betty Adams a happy birthday. 2 birthdays in 1 week. Woo! Lori Weiss-Wolgen and Dave Wolgen, in honor of Rebecca Lipman's birthday. We have birthday twins in our congregation. And Lori Weiss-Wolgen and David Wolgen, in honor of Betty Adams' birthday. Folks are always welcome to join us for Torah study. And as Rabbi said in her presentation in the story reading, listening is very important. And we're going to talk a little bit about listening tomorrow during Torah study. That's assuming everybody listened to me last week. Shabbat Shalom to all of you on behalf of our entire Board of Trustees. May it be a good and a restful week for you.
Thank you, Lynn. Okay, so we are just about at the time where we think of those who have passed. Our thoughts turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. This week, we remember the anniversary of the passing, the yahrzeits of the following people whose names are illuminated on the plaque surrounding the sanctuary: Hyman Aaron, Sarah Berger, Samuel B. Cohen, Lena Druch, Milton Fisher, Alfred Friedlieb, Harry Hurwitz, Phyllis S. Hyman, Morris Japak, Sidney Cass, Sarah Kirshner, Irving Clarer, Esther Levy, Jules Lish, Samuel Marshak, Claire Rockover, David Rosenthal, Joseph Shapiro, Lillian Summers, Rose Tobin, and Beverly Weiss. Others recalled at this time: Gary Barnett, Linda Fields, Molly Geschwind, Ruth Gordon, Morris Greenfield, Fran Katz, Marilyn Miller, Rita Oxman, Martin Sweet, Merle Willens, and Lillian Weinman. And we recall with sadness the more recent passings of the following people. First of all, I do want to mention with sadness the passing of one of our members, Wilma, who was known as Billy Kahn, has passed away this morning. She has not yet had her funeral. but we are saddened by her loss. We also recall with sadness Bernard Perry, Ariel Jade Novick, Randy Lair, Ian Fedke, and Jean Hirschberg. If you are recalling someone whose name I did not say, please say their name aloud. Raise your hand if you have. And those who are worshiping from a distance, please say the name of those that you're thinking of as well. So with them in mind and remembering all of those who were murdered in the Shoah, we rise for Mortar's Kaddish on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'almah divarach chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon uvyomechon uv'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala uvizman kari v'imru, Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevorach le'olam ulalmei amaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal. Shemei dekudisha brichu. Le'elah min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbachata v'nechemata. Da'amiran ba'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshbei tevel v'imru, Amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us, to all Israel, and to all who mourn among us. And let us all say, Amen. Please take a seat. For our closing song, I thought I'd do a little something different. I don't know if we've ever sung this here before, but this is one of my favorite Shabbat table songs. So if you didn't grow up in a household, I didn't either, where people sang songs around the Shabbat table, you may not know this, but in many homes, there is what's called a bencher, a little book of prayers and songs, and it does have the benching, the Birkat Hamazon for after meals, but it also has Shabbat songs in it. And this is one of the Shabbat songs that I enjoy. And it's called Ki Eshmera Shabbat. It's on 634. And I think you may pick it up as we go. If you pick up the melody but not the words, Yidai is always acceptable and accessible as well. 634, Ki Eshmera Shabbat. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Oti leomead beino uveni. Oti leomead beino uveni. Let's try that whole thing one more time. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Oti leomead beino uveni. Oti leomead beino uveni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Ki Eshmera Shabbat El Yishmereni. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.